Hello everybody, Bruce here with a video walkthrough of Lab 5. And now, Lab 5 had you download a whole bunch of assets from a folder on the CTEX server that I pointed you to. Now, as you can see here in my, this is my XAMPP htdocs folder, I put the CSS in a CSS folder. I put the images in an images folder, right? And I have an includes folder where I place the inkvars.php, which I gave you, and then I have my lab5.php file. I may have asked you to call it project.php, but whatever it is the PHP script that runs this entire page, right? And if you remember from the walkthrough video I had previously, the purpose of this page is to for you to catch whether or not a user first has all three parameters and whether they're in range, right? The people parameter had to be within between 1 and 10, and the avatars and BIOS query parameters had to have a value of either Y or N. And I'm not going to go through that now. I can tell you that my code here does work. If you want to go back and watch the video that I shared in Slack, please do. But let me walk through the code here. Okay, let me walk through the code. And again, structure is really important. And as you start to develop your PHP skills, right, you can see here in I'm on my Mac this time, not my PC, so I'm running XAMPP on my Mac, that I neatly organized all of the assets, okay? So I'm going to go into Sublime Text here, and I'm going to make it full screen. And we'll start at the top. Line 1, I put a little comment in there to tell me that it was Lab 5. I have my doc type, my HTML, head, title, and then here on line 6, notice that I reference in the CSS folder the file project.css. Okay. On line 10, I include inkvars.php, which happens to live in the includes folder. And then I have an HTML tag here. Now, out of PHP, notice that I had closed the line here. Again, this is my style of coding PHP. Yours may be different. In fact, a lot of yours may be way more efficient than mine, but that's, it's just we code all differently, right? So here's an image tag that links to the banner with the alt tag there, with the alt attribute and value. Then I start my PHP again, and I created variables here. I didn't create them right away when I wrote this. I put them up here, right, as I found that I needed them in the code below. The errors flag is going to keep track of whether we have any errors or not. The errors count is going to be initialized to 0, and I do use both of these. I mean, you could have used one, but I wanted to show you, how to start, doing things like this. The people count I set to 0 as a default, and the error string, which you'll soon see that I'm going to use to display, to concatenate all the errors together, is initialized as an empty string. So the first thing I do between lines 19, right, between 19 right here and 32, is to check to see if the people parameter is set. If it is set, then I'm going to go to line 21 and see that it's greater than 0 and less than or equal to 10. Okay, so if it is cool, if the variable's within range, then I set the people count to I get the parameter, the query parameter right there, and I set it to people count. Else, right, I say that error string right here on line 24 is equal to error strong. Please include the number of people to display from 1 to 10. I set the errors flag to true, and I increment the value, the count of errors, so it goes to 1 now. Okay? Now on line 28, I have an else condition that says, hey man, that people parameter wasn't there. So then I say, people parameter not found, and then I set the errors flag to true, and I increase the errors count as well. Okay? Everyone okay with that so far? The next thing I do is I do the same thing, well, kind of the same thing for avatars, right? I say, hey, is avatars there on line 35? And then I check to make sure that it's equal to y. I set it to lowercase here, or n. So if someone typed in a capital Y or a capital N, I take that, okay? Because they made a goofy mistake, and I'm a coder, and I thought ahead, and I did that. So if in fact the avatar's value passes the conditions here, then we set avatar's display equal to the value of avatars, whether it was Y or N. Now, some of you may have had logic here to set avatar's display to Y, or that's kind of what I did, Y to N, right? But some of you may have done additional if statements in here. I saw that. That's okay, right? So if there was an error, right, I append on to the current value of errors, right, string, right, this operator here, the dot equals operator, will take the current value of dot errors and append onto it this string right here. So I want you to get familiar with doing this. And the errors flag is set to true because we had an errors, and I increment the errors count. You could have done errors count dot plus equals 1 as well. Okay. So if it wasn't set, then I append on to the errors string this information here. I set the errors flag to true, and I increment the count. And again, I do the same exact thing for the BIOS here. And I'll give you the code, fret not. So what I then do is I say, hey, on line 64, if the errors flag is true, right? I didn't have to write equals equals true because this is the same thing. If this condition is true, echo out, right, div with an ID of errors, okay? Echo at H2, there are errors count, right? That's the count. You must review. And then I echo out the errors string, which contain one or more errors, and I close the div. Okay? You cool with that? Again, hit pause at any time if you want to hear me speak what's going on here again. Okay? So what's going on at this point, right, is, right, I'm saying div ID wrapper class equals people. And then I say here, and I could have done this a little better. I probably could have put it inside of here to make sure if there were no errors, okay? I say if not errors flag. If the errors flag is not set, then you're good to go. You can iterate through, right, all of the paired arrays that I gave you, people, avatars, and bios. And you can do that using a for loop to from I equals 0 to I less than the people count, right? So if someone entered one person, right, it would go from 0 to 1. It would end at 1, so it would just iterate 1. And if it was 10, it would go from 0 to 9, which is 10, right? And actually, why did I do this way? This should be $I++. Okay. So I just changed that, okay? Let me just go back and make sure it works here. Okay, so question mark people equals 1, ampersand avatars equals y, and bios equals y. And there's the one person. Good. Yay. I thought I made a mistake there. Let's go back to Sublime Text. So what's going on here is I just added some additional HTML markup and CSS, right? And I echo out here. This is the container for the actual row that's going to contain the person. Then I echo out an inner div here, and I put in the avatar if in fact the avatar's display boolean was set. And again, look really carefully at line 82 and how I escape out the double quotes here and how I build the string. Okay? And then I echo out a break tag and the end of a strong tag here. I opened a strong tag somewhere, right? Oh, that's the start of a strong tag. And then I echo out people sub I and the closing strong tag, right? That's going to echo out the considering we're in the first iteration of the loop, $people sub 0, which is going to be the name of the person, right, in the people array. And then if the BIOS was to be displayed, right? Oh, I'm going to rewind a second here. See this right here? I'm highlighting it on line 82. Avatar sub 0. All these are paired arrays, right? So everything in the 0 index for all three arrays is going to be for that first person. So if the BIOS is to be displayed, if it equals y, right? If BIOS display equals y, then I am going to find the position of the slash, right, in the BIOS, right, $BIOS of 0, and then that's going to be the starting position of their title, and then I'm going to go from 0 to that position, and that's going to be, right, their title. Do you get it? Do you get how that works? Okay, so yeah, so I need you to study that. The other way to do that is to use explode, where you can take a string and explode it on the slash character. Okay, I want you to try this and see how it works. I put it here just so you can learn about string pos and substring. Okay, you got that? And for the second part of the name, for the company name, right, you're going to use strchar, strchr, and you're going to look for the slash and then the space, and then you can grab the end off of that, okay, using strchr again. Now, some of you are, yeah, this reminds you of the Python string slicing and stuff we did, right? Or some of the string methods that Python has built into it. So I highly suggest that you learn string pos, substring, string chars, etc. Okay? And explode. Maybe I'll do a video on explode. And then I close out the inner div and the outer div for the row, and that's it. Oh, and I close out the people div and the wrapper. Okay, and I said to you that I probably should have just put this stuff right inside the loop. Okay, that was kind of my mistake. So rewatch the video again. If you have any questions, let me know. And it's really important that you understand how this works. So now it's time to move full on into integrating MySQL with our PHP. Thanks for watching, everybody. Oh, and if you've watched this video all the way through, let me know on Slack for some brownie points.